Hello, everyone. My name is Ayrton Bryan, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk to you today. Thank you, Heather Combs with STEM Forward, and thank you, Ms. Marlowe, for having me. So I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about my job as an environmental health and safety manager and engineer. So the first thing is, why did I decide to become an environmental health and safety, or EHS, manager and engineer? So what attracted me to this career is the opportunity to help people and the environment. When I was in school, I decided that I wanted to do something that was active, that was engaging with the world around me, and had a chance to make an impact to make it a happier place to live for people and a beautiful place to live for people. And so by going through work, I was able to discover environmental health and safety as a field. And so I work with manufacturing environments and office environments to make sure that people are staying safe and that we're keeping the environment safe and healthy as well. And so a typical day for me looks like talking, it's meetings with different stakeholders, some owners in laboratories, some owners in manufacturing areas, and some owners that are all the way over the entire globe for the company I work for, Rockwell Automation. And so I'm making phone calls. I'm also walking around doing audits and inspections on things like our hazardous waste and our water supply and our electrical usage. And so I get to interact, plan, and schedule with people to help set up the right procedures and make sure that from a regulatory or government perspective, and then also an internal perspective, we're meeting all the rules that we need to. I would say that the best part of my job is getting to interact with people and empower them. So having the opportunity to sit down with people, to ask them what they need, ask for help, and help them figure out how they can help themselves and engage with the world around them in the safest way possible and the most environmentally accountable way possible is pretty cool. I get the opportunity to work with so many different people with so much knowledge on building future robotics all the way to producing machine parts, and really getting to speak with them, talk with them, and share ideas is a wonderful experience. I would say the worst part of what I have to do is you'll learn nothing is done unless you have paper trail for it. So sometimes the paperwork that goes into the work I do can be a little frustrating to organize, but I know it's one of the most important parts, because just because you did something, if you can't look back and prove that you did it later, that's a lot of times how you can help yourself get in trouble. And so I hate to say it, but homework absolutely has a purpose and will help you in the real world. And so I'll tell you a little bit about my education path. So I went straight to university. I had the opportunity to go to Texas A&M University down in Texas, where it's a little bit warmer. And I did my undergraduate degree in atmospheric sciences. And so while working through that, I knew I wanted to move into an engineering role by discovering that I really like taking a hands-on approach with the environment and people's safety. And so then I went to get my master's at Virginia Tech, our Virginia Polytechnic State Institute and University. So moved a little bit further north, and I pursued my degree in environmental and civil engineering. And so from there, currently I'm doing some training to become something called a certified industrial hygienist, so I can work to further help people and have the technical expertise and knowledge to be able to look at different chemical, physical, and biological hazards to make sure that nobody's being impacted. And some of those hazards even include things like COVID-19. So I'm learning how to keep people safe in the workplace day to day. Some of the challenges I had to overcome were understanding really where I wanted my path to take me. And so when you're doing work, particularly math or science, sometimes you can think you're bad at it just because you don't get the right answer. That's not true. With math and science, it's very defined if you're in the right or wrong based off of your answer. But the important part is that you're developing the technique and approach to be systematic, analytical, and solve puzzles. So just because you get a problem wrong doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. It means that you need to tweak and work on some of the activities you're doing, and then you can find a way to really solve the kind of puzzles and problems that you love and apply it to the real world. And then by being an EHS manager, I've gotten the opportunity to combine my love of math and science with working with people. So I really get to see day to day the impact and help I'm having with the work I do. And so some of the projects I've gotten to work on, which I've really enjoyed, is I have developed entire training systems for things ranging from electrical practices to fork truck safety. And to describe a fork truck, it's those trucks that lift up really big boxes. They're more than 5 times heavier than a car. So creating traffic plans and movement techniques for how people use those to make sure people are staying safe is incredibly important. Another project I've gotten to work on that I'll show you some pictures of later is the introduction of an entirely new manufacturing line to a space and helping them come up with the procedures, the techniques, and the work that needed to be done to make sure they were being environmentally accountable and keeping their teams safe. And some of the technical jobs at my company for Rockwell, it's amazing. They need electrical engineers, they need mechanical engineers, they need financial engineers, they need computer engineers. And some of those technical aspects of what they do, they design entirely new electrical systems. They're working on creating controls for some of the machines like cars and planes and automation equipment that we use day to day to be able to make those vehicles smart, to be able to make those automation lines react to anything. And so by working with them, having that background in some of those fields, such as electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, computer engineering, and even environmental engineering, we're truly building towards a technology-driven and a environmentally sustainable future. And so some of the degrees that you would need to be able to work in some of those jobs might be electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, computer engineering. There's industrial engineering where you not only get to work with machines, but sometimes you get to work with processes such as what's the fastest way to get material from point A to point B, or what's the most cost-effective way to make sure that when I take parts A, B, and C and I create product D, that I'm producing it the most efficiently, safely, and productively. And also, sometimes having a background in some of the cost structure or project management is essential. Some of the work I got to do was project management while I was going through my undergraduate college degree, and that's how I was able to transition and move into an EHS manager position so that I get to do both engineering and planning. So what technical skills might Rockwell Automation look for in applicants? First, they want to know, and most importantly, that they are ethical and great people. So they're looking to see that cultural fit, that ability to talk to people, interact, and also do the right thing even when no one's looking. And so I'd say even with technical skills considered, the #1 thing is having people who are going to do the right thing. And sometimes the right things means admitting when you don't know what you're doing, asking for help, and being honest with mistakes. From a technical perspective, what our company is looking for is people that are puzzle solvers. They're willing to get their hands in there, take steps, take the chance of being wrong, and if they're wrong, learn why it went wrong so they can apply that to the next lesson. And so they're looking for people with the skills to do math, do those equations. They're looking for people with skills to translate those equations into computers to calculate from there. They're looking for people who are willing to talk to people, work with people, and collaborate as a team. So even if you think you can do 100% of the task on your own, you'll find that in companies like Rockwell Automation, the amount of work to do and the big ideas are so wide that no one person could ever do it alone. And so that's why it's so important to be able to work with a team, connect with your coworkers, be open in a diverse, equitable, and inclusive way to be able to interact and connect with people from different backgrounds so that you are able to drive some of that innovation, success, and great thinking. And so now, since I've been talking so much, I want to share my screen and show you some of the areas that I get to work on and some of what I really enjoy doing day to day. So I will share my screen. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so we'll be bouncing back and forth between a PowerPoint and a few videos, so I'll be able to talk through and let you see what's going on. So some of the areas I get to work at, I work at a facility that's 3 million square feet. To put that into perspective, you could walk my facility. If you walked every square foot of my facility, you would walk more than 50 miles in a day. And so that's with 3 million square feet, that's a lot of area to cover. I had to do some of that quick engineer math. So one of the areas I work is the high voltage endurance testing lab. Here, they do a variety of things to test our equipment and see competitor equipment as well to understand what kind of things might cause that equipment to fail. And so electricity, as we know, powers a lot of the things we do. It's how we're able to have this video conversation and learn remotely today. But if you're not careful with big sources of electricity, something called an arc flash can happen. And that is something that we want to make sure we're avoiding. So I'm going to show you a few videos of some arc flashes just so you can see why it's so important to make sure that we work safely. And so with that amount of electricity, if you're not careful and you're too close to an arc flash and you don't have your engineering and system set up properly, you can see how people could really get hurt and potentially even not make it home. All right. So in this lab, I work with the engineers and technicians to make sure that things have the right setup, that when people are doing work on something that might have active electricity going through it, that they have the right protective equipment, personal protective equipment, PPE, and that they're, when they're doing more invasive work, that they properly lock out and isolate energy sources so that they don't get hurt. I also get to work with the chemical and material engineering lab. Here, they have more machines than I could ever count. And what they're doing is they're testing everything from steel to copper to chemicals and materials we've never even heard of, and some which may not have even been invented yet, to develop new opportunities and new ways to build our equipment and service customers. They use everything from X-rays to stress testing machines to machines that can take something that has 100 different chemicals in it, split it apart, and figure out the percentage of each individual chemical in the component. And so what they're doing is really defining how we build things so that when our electrical and computer engineers to say what they do and what they need to do, and most importantly, what electrical loads, heat, and things they can handle, we're protecting our people with physical hazards and coming up with innovative solutions. I also work with the Power and Manufacturing Lab. Here, they come up with some of the most innovative testing devices that I've ever had the chance to see. And so they're testing our equipment for electrical current, for heat stress, and to make sure it's doing what it says it's supposed to do. From a computer programming perspective, oftentimes they say, iteration is the solution. And so going through it 10, 20, even 100 times is how you figure out and make sure that what you're working with is doing the right thing every time. I also get to work with manufacturing lines. And so here I'll show you a little bit of our 100C manufacturing line, which is the only one like it with all of Rockwell and is designed with all of our parts to highlight the amazing system we have. And so here, this is where we worked with a video group, we worked with marketers, and then worked as engineers as a team to create a virtual automation fair that we can show you sitting at your very own home. And here we see where some of our engineers sit. Here, they created a conveyor that is so safe. When you apply the pressure of a hand, it automatically stops versus having the risk of if a long sleeve were to get caught in a conveyor, you could be pulled into the machine. And I can say that that is not something that you would want to happen and not a way to make it home the way you came into work. And here is where you can see everything that's actively happening and be able to troubleshoot if your equipment has issues while also being protected from some of those arc flashes we were talking about earlier. Here's our water chiller plant. Here is where we have to cool off water to the right temperature or heat up water to the right temperature to run all the heating and air conditioning machinery for the entire 3 million square foot facility. We have a variety of chemicals that we need to know what the parts are, and that if something were to happen with those chemicals, how could we safely handle them and dose them to make sure that our water's staying clean, safe, and we're able to use it day to day. And then finally, looking at customer futures, we'll hop back to our virtual automation fair and see some of what else we get to interact with. We won't be taking that deeper dive, but just to show some of what we do, we design the controls that can tell you exactly what your machine is doing. It's like if you had something 10 times more powerful than an iPhone for every machine you were using. You could know exactly how cool your refrigerator is, how much electricity it's using. You could know exactly how fast you're pedaling on your bike. You can know your Xbox, how fast it's downloading or uploading information, and be able to have that right in your fingertips as you're producing hundreds and thousands of interactions day to day. Here we highlight bringing the connected enterprise to life. And so that stresses that teamwork mentality where we work with other companies to make sure that we're able to collaborate, work together, and produce wins together. And so as we go through, you can see here's just some more examples of the technology and display that here at Rockwell, we're so proud of and that we're able to work through and really help design. So for this space, I got to work with helping them design everything from how the air conditioning and heating would work to make it safe for people to be in there, to how things would be electrically connected, to what kind of displays and highlights from a safety perspective we'd be able to showcase as well. So again, I wanted to thank everyone for their time and their attention today. It's been a wonderful opportunity to be able to sit down with you. I could see that I have a little bit of lag, so I apologize for any of that. But I'm looking forward to having the chance to sit down and get together for our virtual question and answer session. So take care. Thanks again for having me. And if you have any questions or are considering going into science, technology, engineering, or mathematics field, I say do it. I have a lot of fun doing what I do day to day, and I get to see a real impact in that, knowing people are coming home and going to work and then going home safe, healthy, and able to do the things they love to do day to day. Thanks and take care. Bye.